Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, starting the 9th year of this podcast, which we did not acknowledge on our previous episode because we are absolute fools, is the Macho Mandrew, my brother.
Andrew Lano. Yeah, it is crazy to think about that it's been so long.
Yeah, it's totally bonkers. I was like, oh wait, that was the last episode of August. Oh shoot, we should have said something. Like, what a fool, because we're recording. This is peel back the curtain. It's still August while we're recording this, and so in my head I was like, oh, that's the episode we got to talk about it on. But no, this is the start of the 9th year of this thing.
Wow.
This unwieldy ship of ours. It's very difficult to turn. Sometimes it smells bad. But yes, it is 9th
Sometimes they run out of shrimp at the buffet.
Sometimes they run out of shrimp at the buffet. Neither of the captains knows what they're doing. But anyway, if you're here, we really appreciate it. So I just want to say thanks to all of you who have listened to the show. We also thank the people who don't listen anymore, but they'll never hear this. So, you get to have it on their behalf. So I will say it's gauche to be like, here's how you can be even more supportive, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you really like the show, if you like the show even a little bit, you should check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Got a new bonus episode up there right now for the month of September, which is on American Anthem, which is like a wild peek into the thing we've touched on before, where it's someone's star shines so bright that they get a movie, which is not really a thing we do as much anymore. I feel like they've tried to do it with some YouTubers.
TikTokers.
They're
trying to do
TikTokers now, but before that, I feel like there was like a window of like, because wasn't that Valley Girl remake like a YouTube? The guy is from YouTube.
I think maybe. I don't know for sure, but I feel like what used to happen like 10 years ago was that they were making these little movies and then not really having distribution because streaming wasn't as, juggernaut as it is now. It was sort of like you had Netflix and like maybe Hulu, but like that was it.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, we don't really want it. So they would be like, make these like F the prom or like whatever stupid bullshit. But now these like media, streaming juggernauts are like, hey, teen TikToker, do you want to be in a terrible remake of a movie from the 90s?
Yeah. Clueless will be next.
Oh, I hope not.
But anyway, it's
because they're going to get it wrong. They're going to get that movie is super feminist, and they're going to get it wrong.
Yeah, I mean they get most of them wrong, so that wouldn't shock me. But this was a peek into that era where we had a gymnast who was such a breakout star that they were like, we gotta get this guy in a movie, and he can't really act. No, so it goes about how well you think.
That's probably why the gymnast, other athletes didn't get that treatment, like Lochte or Phelps or like Simone Biles. They're probably like, we're good,
Yeah.
Stay on the Wheaties box. Stay on the podium.
Yeah, it's like if you were going to make a movie now with Simone Biles, you would make a movie in which she has a small part as a coach or is like on the team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It wouldn't
she's
be
there.
Like, although I will say she's pretty charismatic. You could probably you might be able to get away with her, but like if it was Michael Phelps who has no presence, you'd be like, yeah, you're the coach.
Of like put him in a track jacket and let him slap someone's back.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're making the movie we pitched years ago, or / also during Gymkata. No, that was Gymkata, not American Anthem, where terrorists attack the Olympics and the Olympians have to save the day.
Yes. It's a genius idea. I know Adam Carolla also has had this idea, so it's not. We didn't think we'd reinvented the wheel, but it's a great movie, so someone should write that. I would watch it. Anyway, so that is over there. It's American Anthem, a very fun little weird movie that you don't really get as much anymore. So fun to explore. So that's patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. If you like this show, you get 4 extra episodes a year. Plus we do the Christmas commentary and all sorts of other fun stuff. So go check it out, and we will see you over on Patreon. But for now, we watched Nightshift, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your proto-Beetlejuice. Someone's gonna get your proto-Beetlejuice.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
That's a good That's a good pool there for Keaton. I have a lot to say about Keaton in this movie,
I do too.
so I'm excited.
Very good.
Excited to dig into it. We start with Richard Belzer from the Law and Order verse.
Yes.
But are you aware of the John Munch thing?
No?
So the name of his character on Law and Order is John Munch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is this like he's been that character in like 18 Things or something?
Yes, yeah, it's like the X-Files, The Wire, all Law and Order.
Are they canonically all the same John Munch?
Yes. Also Sesame Street.
In like a
30 Rock.
like a cop episode? Was he like finding the missing cookies or something?
I don't know the context, but I just saw it listed and I was like, it was probably something cute, like that. On 30 Rock, there was a dream sequence where he played John Munch and was like, I think Liz talks to him in the dream. I can't 100% remember.
Yeah, I can't remember that. I watched a lot of 30 Rock.
Also on Kimmy Schmidt, which I don't remember, but
I fell off
was
that.
Also on Kimmy Schmidt.
I love that wagon.
But I like to believe that this character is a very deep undercover John Munch. So including
it
this
could be John
personally.
Munch before, like he like
before he became
yeah
a cop,
he like this
turned
was what
life
scared
around.
him straight, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life putting the punks that I like I used to be behind bars. Dun dun.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I love it. So I saw him and I was like, oh man, Richard Belzer, and he's barely in the movie.
Yeah.
But, I just love that Law and Order business. I love that stupid connected stuff. I just recently was doing the same thing with not Rue McClanahan.
Estelle Getty as Sophia.
Thank you, Estelle Getty. Yes, and how she played Sophia like in a Blossom episode for 4 minutes. She literally she comes in one door, she has a tete-a-tete with Blossom, and she walks out the other door, and that's her whole part of the episode. But it's her playing Sophia on a Blossom. Yeah. But yeah, I was really delighted by seeing how much she was just like, yeah, I'm not giving it up. It's a good paycheck. Why would I?
I mean,
I was like, yeah, I get
rest in peace, but it's the same way with rest in peace for Estelle Getty too. She died. For Pat Carroll, like anytime Disney wanted Ursula for anything, she was there.
Sure.
A theme park show, a fireworks spectacular, a video game, a ride, a piece of merchandise that was going to talk. That she was there in the studio already recording.
Yeah, it's like, for especially Estelle Getty. I don't know the age of the actress who played Ursula, but like she's an older woman. I mean, she's obviously not as old as Sophia is.
Yeah,
but it's not like there's an abundance of roles out there. So it's like, yeah, I'll take the work. Why not?
Yeah. Well, in a similar vein, I promise this will be the end of our tangent. I think. Angela Lansbury had a friend who was an actress who was like hadn't gotten work because she was an older woman and not a lot of opportunities, and she learned that because she hadn't been getting work, she was going to lose her health benefits through SAG Actors Equity or whatever, and like she was going through hard health times, and she was like, I don't know what to do, and so Angela Lansbury wrote a role into Murder She Wrote so she would have a role twice a year or whatever minimum she needed. Wrote a specific role into Murder She Wrote so that this woman could come back every twice a year so she could keep her benefits.
So she was like her agent or something, like something that would recur but not often.
I think she was like a librarian in the town or something. Like she worked in Cabot Cove.
That's great. Yeah.
Which like
what a
exactly what I would love to do. I would love to have that power.
That is the type of nepotism I can fully get behind, where it's like it doesn't really affect anyone, right? It's like yeah, I guess technically another actor lost out on that part, kind of, but like,
that part wasn't going to exist.
Really, right. It's just like yeah, I will make sure you get to keep your health insurance. We will make sure you tick the box because Hollywood won't hire you. I'm all in for that. Anyway, Richard Belzer is one half of a pimp duo who's chasing down.
Are they actually pimps? Or are they like the manager?
Really
they be like a manager to a pimp?
They're the upper management versus the middle management. I don't know. My impression is like vaguely mafia connected.
Because I always assume really the people who want money don't actually do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
That wasn't supposed to be like some commentary about like Bezos or whatever for once. Yeah. But just like anytime it's like the mafia or like these goons being like, hey, you pay us for protection. It's like, well, you would be the one that would hurt me. So
So with that, I don't, not necessarily defending the mafia shakedown here, but like in the era, like the old era, it was kind of like, you might not be able to get cops, but we can make sure if somebody robs you, like we'll make sure we get your justice. So I think people were like kind of paying them as a private security force. Obviously, it was like pay us or we'll destroy your business.
Yeah.
So it was not on the up and up, but I do believe there was like some level of.
Is there any of that in like Goodfellas and shit?
Goodfellas is all about the bad side of these things. So it's like,
yeah. Oh, Bronx Tale. Isn't Bronx Tale like all that?
Bronx Tale has Bronx Tale does have some of it. I think I'm almost positive it's Bronx Tale where these like bikers come in and are in this guy's bar and they won't leave, and they like he goes to get the mafia people and he's like, hey, like these guys are in my bar, I got to get them out of there. And
then it turns out they were doing a Toys for Tots drive.
Yes, exactly, like What We Do in the Shadows. No, it's like obviously it's like horrible, but it's a very badass scene where they like talk to the guys and they're like, come on, you gotta get out of here. And they're like, hey, fuck you. And they're like, oh, fuck me, huh? And then he locks the door to the bar. Like he locks them in.
You're locked in here
very
with
much
me.
like Rorschach. Exactly. And he's like, now you can't leave. And he picks up a chair and just like cracks one of the dudes. And then they beat 9 times the shit out of the guys, including one great spot where he like kicks the first motorcycle and they all go down like dominoes, like clink, 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 just destroying the motorcycles. So obviously like bad people, but it's a very badass scene. Yeah. So I think that's like what you were ostensibly paying for, but obviously it's like, if you don't pay me, then I will do the thing. So it's, you're double fucked.
I only guessed,
but yes,
Bronx Tale because that one. YouTube.
I'm 90% sure that scene is in Bronx Tale and not Goodfellas. Like, it's possible that my brain screwed that up, but I'm like 90% sure that's right.
YouTube Shorts, for some reason, get stuck in like cycles for a while of what they want to pump out to people. And for a minute, it was Sopranos clips with occasional like Bronx Tale Goodfellas tossed in.
Okay. Yeah, I recently I don't often do this. I'm always like, why would anyone watch one scene of a movie? But it was the long take in Goodfellas popped up. And I was
That's
like,
through the kitchen, right?
Yeah. And I put that on and I was like, shit, I gotta watch
There's scenes in movies that I've watched of just the scene. But it's a weird, like, because shorts are like 30 seconds at most or whatever. And I'm like, what happened that now it's like all fucking Sopranos and like out of context? I have no idea. It's like this woman's being beaten by her husband, who is actually Tony Soprano's nephew. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is more impactful if I like watched the show.
I thought you were talking about that thing where it's like 10 minutes of Tony Soprano being a badass.
Oh no, like those videos exist, but this is YouTube Shorts where they're like trying to be TikToks. It's just like 30 seconds to a minute. And I'm like, there needs to be more context in some of these clips. But
anyway, so they're chasing this guy down. I think you're probably right that they might not be pimps themselves, but I thought he talked about territory, which made me think it was like,
regional managers.
We have. Yeah, right. But also, like, we pimp these streets and you pimp those streets, and you came to our section of town. Sort of like, The Wire had a lot of things about, like, territory is pretty sacred for the drug dealers in The Wire, where it's like, this is my area. If you come into my area, that is incredibly, like, that is the boldest of moves. It's much, war bullshit. Yeah. Anyway, they're chasing this guy. It's a great scene. I will say this right off the bat. This is a Ron Howard movie.
Probably the most exciting Ron Howard movie I've ever seen.
We have spent hours making fun of this man for the way his movies looks. This movie looks great. Where did this all go? Like, he's had other good DPs. Dean Cundy shot Apollo 13. Like, what happened, man? This is genuinely very good. Like, if I saw this movie and then I watched something else from him, I'd be like, did you get a head injury? How did this happen? Yeah. So a lot of great looking stuff. In particular, this sequence, they finally get the guy, they tie him to a chair, and these dudes are playing basketball, and it's like really well set up movie wise, where it's like they're playing basketball, and the guy runs by and they're like, who was that? I don't know. And then the two other guys run by, and then the dude is like going for a dunk, and you see
he bets his friend $1 or something that he can dunk.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's like going to do the dunk. And as he's like running up to the basketball, it's great editing, cutting back and forth between the chair, the man bound to the chair getting thrown out the window and the guy going for the dunk. And an awesome shot of up underneath the hoop of the chair coming down. And so he dunks and then the dude in the chair goes also through the hoop. It's crazy good looking.
It is. Two things. This would not have killed him.
Oh, absolutely. Like, just like he would have turned into a bag of soup, I feel like.
The way he hits when he like 'cause you see his body sort of like, you don't see hit like, you can tell it's the moment of impact for him.
Right.
And I was like, that just does not look like it would have killed him. Like if he had gone head first, I would have believed it.
I assumed his shin bones like went out up through his knees.
I mean, maybe. The other thing
the chair shattered.
Oh yeah. I was like, how did this kid not hear or see this happening?
I assume he was like so intently trying to make this dollar off the dunk that he was like, you know, you get in the zone sometimes, you know, and it's just like, you know, he's heartbeat in his ears and he goes up for the dunk and he's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, then his brain is like, that was the sound of glass breaking. That's the sound of a man screaming. And he's like doing, yeah. And then like he would turn and just see this human body.
I kind of wish it did that. I will say, I think this opening scene needed to be like, given a bit of a color wash of comedy to it.
Yeah.
And I think the whole world needed to have been heightened like 2 clicks to match, because Keaton's in like his own movie. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And like it's sort of perfectly balanced with Winkler's energy being so the opposite. But then the world feels very normal, and I was like, well, we need some balance issues.
Yeah, I feel like there's a really great movie that I would love in this movie, like, and not even with like a lot of, I mean, obviously you'd have to reshoot some stuff, but even just like reordering it a little bit, I think would really up it for me. Mm-hmm. Mostly I like what's here, but I think this movie would be a lot better if, like, for example, so this guy gets killed. It looks fantastic. And we have Winkler
cut to a theme song.
At work.
Can't ignore a theme song.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And by the way, I should say, the DP on this is James Crabe, I'm guessing, who also shot Rocky and the first 2 Karate Kid movies. So he knows how to shoot action for sure. And then it was written by Babalu Mandel, and I forget the man's first name. I just wrote down Gans, but they wrote Splash together.
Oh. And
then I think, I don't know if they both wrote League of Their Own and Parenthood, but at least one of them wrote those.
You said League of Their Own?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we get the theme song, and then we have Winkler, who's, you know, works at a morgue. We see him at his job, and he is there with Shelley Long, who is identifying the man who got killed. And this is where we start to see, like, she's like, oh, don't I know you and stuff. And I feel like the first scene should be like Winkler coming up to the apartment with the girlfriend and Shelley Long being like, oh, hey, Jim, or something like I feel like we should know that they know each other before whatever.
Well, because she's a sex worker, we'll say that.
Yeah.
So I feel like the joke was supposed to be, wouldn't it be crazy if this man went to a sex worker? Isn't that shameful and hilarious?
Right.
The punchline really is, no, she does know you because she lives in your building, you dip.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, I think that would be funnier if we knew that and he didn't, like, because he just, you know, thought of her as like, you know, Sally down the hall or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's just a minor thing. But
or they should have done a wig. It should have been like what?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty Woman.
No, not Pretty. I was going Trading Places.
Oh yeah, also Trading Places. Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. I think that would make it a little bit better. But he does this identification, and then his boss comes and talks to him and is like, hey, I'm bumping you. You're getting demoted to the night shift. My nephew is taking your job.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, he also says,
which I feel like,
if your boss ever does something shady and then goes, what, are you going to go over my head? The answer is yes, because that means you can go over their head. They just told you I'm doing something wrong, and to go over my head would change this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like the movie, like, this is the only, like, we see him get kind of shat on here, and then later we see, like, that the wife and the family doesn't really the fiance and the family doesn't really respect him, and he kind of gets, like, pushed around, and the whole sandwich thing. But I feel like the turn of this movie happens at a point where I'm like, well, I'm just kind of confused as to why, like, he suddenly had this eureka moment. It's like, you know, it just doesn't. I mean,
the crux of the movie is a cis white straight man learns to be assertive, which, like, cool.
Yeah, okay,
that's his arc.
Yeah,
if we boil it down.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but also it's like, he isn't assertive, and so he gets to be, it's fine. I honestly feel like in watching this movie, it's like Ferris Bueller, but from Cameron's point of view.
I can see that. I can see that energy for sure.
And watching this, I'm like, oh, this is why everyone hates Ferris Bueller. Because everybody else identifies with Cameron and I identify with Ferris Bueller. And so I'm like, oh yeah, he's like, he just, works the edges, gets what he wants, doesn't really harm anybody other than Ed Rooney, who's a turd. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, if you don't identify with Ferris in any way, then it's like you're Cameron and you're like, ugh, what a piece of shit. And it's just like most people seem to hate Ferris Bueller. I was like, ever since we did that episode, I've noticed it more and more. Like
Ferris Bueller, the character, not the movie.
Yeah. Like people probably don't like the movie if they hate the character, but people really fucking hate Ferris Bueller. I know you don't like him either.
Yeah, he's not my favorite.
Yeah, and so I was just in watching this, I was
not
like,
my favorite Broderick or Hughes. Like, I will say,
is this what's your favorite John Hughes movie?
Now I'm blanking.
Well, you can come back to it when it comes to you. I just curious. But yeah, I in the latter stages of this, I was like, oh, it's Keaton. Is kind of like Matthew Broderick in Ferris Bueller, and Winkler is definitely Cameron. And so like I could see this movie from a similar lens of like, he desperately needed someone to be like, hey dude, you're allowed to stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. Also his wife, or sorry, I'm going to keep saying wife, his fiance is, the actress is Gina Hecht, who, I have seen in a few things. She's got a pretty prolific career, but most recently I saw her playing Lil Dicky's mom on the FX show he did. I don't know if you're aware of that at all.
Oh, yeah. I saw like 4 episodes one time.
Okay. His parents are Gina Hecht, who's in this, and then David Paymer, character actor extraordinaire, always bald.
I'm sure I would recognize his face.
You would, yeah. We've done a couple movies and talked about his performance in them in particular. He plays doctors a lot, wears a lot of glasses. But yeah, I was just like, oh, what 2 great character actor types for the parents.
I will say, I was like, oh, clearly we're not supposed to be rooting for this relationship. Because she's like exercising really hard for their wedding, and it sort of ends with him trying to kiss her, and like she won't stop exercising enough to actually like kiss him. And I was like, oh, we could have given her a little more shading on this.
Yeah. Well, it's when you're creating a character whose only purpose in the movie is to be the object in between the character and the one that they're supposed to fall in love with, they end up being very throwaway. And so she's in this movie a lot and doesn't have anything to do.
It's a bummer. Because like you can characters shouldn't be props in general. Like I'm not going to say like the women in this movie are props because they are, but like your character should.
I think Shelley Long gets some things to do, but she's close. She did not a lot.
She's a featured prop, we'll say. Yeah, she's the hero prop.
She's more like a lightsaber, It's like an important piece.
But like if you're like writing your screenplay and you've realized that like this character's function is just to like be an obstacle or like whatever, then like give him some shading. At least give him something to do.
Right. And
make
like
the actor work for their day rate.
You do see it like as we go through, like he's very deeply unhappy. Like he's trying to have sex with her. Like, it's like she like kind of intimates like, okay, we can have sex. And then he has to do this like whole rigmarole.
You can't look at me. You have to turn the lights off. You have to check the apartment.
Yeah. Make sure there's nobody in it. And then like later he says that to Shelley Long as if it's like the biggest annoyance in the world. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he just like
never mind.
He's like, never mind. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, that's a pretty wildly weird habit this woman has.
She's like, clearly got a lot of neuroses that like.
Yes. Yeah. But both of them do. Yeah. Like they seem like both incredibly neurotic people. So it's odd to me that there's not more to do with her.
I also like that this feels against type for Henry Winkler. Like he tends to play very like self-assured characters.
I mean, he played Fonzie for crying out loud.
Yeah,
the most self-assured character in history.
Well, even when he's not like necessarily, I would like Dr. Saperstein in Parks and Rec. I wouldn't like describe as self-assured, but like he doesn't really play the mousy Rick Moranis type.
Right. I mean, modern Winkler sort of has like this like grandpa.
Now I wish there was like a screen test of Rick Moranis for this role.
I don't think that Rick would pull off the turn that he does in the right way.
I'd like to see it though. I'd like to see him try.
Yeah. Henry Winkler is very good on Barry, and he's
I've heard.
Yeah, really, really. That show is great in general. It's highly worth your time. But the character he plays on Barry is like
Isn't
a
Darcy
huge
Carden on that,
asshole.
or am I thinking of someone else?
She is. Yep. Nope. Darcy Carden's on it as well. He plays a guy who was like such a dick through the years of Hollywood that the only thing he can do now is teach acting. And then like more and more shading gets filled in over the, multiple seasons. But it's like at one point a casting director is like, you're the only person I've ever seen who had multiple photos of like absolutely under no circumstances will you audition this man. Cause he was just like a egomaniacal asshole. And so it's fun. He very clearly like knows he's got this sort of beloved Hollywood grandpa energy, and it's cool to see him like purposely push against it. Same thing with the Dr. Sapper scene on Parks and Rec, where it's like he seems like it's Henry Winkler, and everybody knows who that is. And he's sweet. Yeah, and then he's like a huge prick to Tom. Like he just straight up steals his business because he wants to, and there's no reason to. He's very successul.
Well,
and very wealthy.
he thought it was for his children. First, he was defending his children, and then he was like, "Now I just want it."
Yeah. So I just like I enjoy that Henry Winkler has like everyone. I think generally most people think of Henry Winkler as like a kindly grandfather type. If you were to ask them, and so I think he purposely chooses roles where he gets to push against that, which I think is very entertaining.
Well, and apparently in IRL, he's actually that like grandfatherly kind figure because to hear who's the guy who created Barry?
Bill Hader.
To hear Bill Hader talk about him at like in interviews and talk shows, he's like, he's like, "Are you sure you want me to say this? Are you sure? Are you sure this is the line?"
Yeah, I really do think that like you hardly hear anybody say anything bad about. I mean, I'm sure somebody doesn't like him, but like you really don't hear much bad about him. He seems like a nice person to work with, and for someone who is television royalty, right? Like I don't even know if I've ever seen a full episode of Happy Days, but like I know who Fonzie is. Everybody does. Yeah. Maybe younger people don't, but he could be a huge prick and he isn't. So that's a good thing. I do love, like, one of my favorite bits in the movie, honestly, is this little dumb gag where he gets to his office and he like throws all the trash away. The schmuck nephew is like just watching Flintstones. Yeah. But he opens his locker, turns on a light bulb inside it, and pulls out like a full size, like, I don't
giant
know
potted
how much
plant.
like 50 pounds it looks like it weighs, and he just like puts it up on the thing. It's this huge fern, like giant leaves, like a beautiful plant, but it's hilarious that he's like, well, I'm keeping this in my locker.
Yeah, I don't trust anyone here.
So Keaton shows up at this point, and I gotta say, I like Michael Keaton a lot. I was really excited Michael Keaton in this movie. I feel like he's doing Bill Murray here.
Really?
Yeah, this feels like totally like Venkman or,
I guess I can see that. Maybe because I don't super care for Bill Murray.
You don't like Bill Murray.
I would probably I didn't make that connection because I didn't hate this.
Yeah.
It felt to me.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it either, but I'm like, this is you doing someone else's thing, and I would rather see Michael Keaton do Michael Keaton.
See, to me, I thought proto Beetlejuice. I was like, this feels like you sort of figuring your way out, like all of your tricks.
Yeah, when you said that up top, that really landed for me. And the thing you said earlier about the fact that it feels like Keaton is in a different movie is so true.
Yeah.
And I think viewed through that lens, I appreciate it a little more. But the whole time I'm watching it, like the whole bit with the limo that we'll get to in a second here just felt like a Bill Murray bit. Like that feels like the opening of Stripes.
I can see, now that you say it, I can see that.
And so the whole time was just like, man, like there's a few parts where you see different glimpses, like in particular, we'll save it for later, but the prostitution on the board, which is my favorite.
Which I'm like, I want to know if he like improvised that.
It sure feels like it. And when Keaton is on his comedy best, everything feels like so in the moment and fast and improvised. Yeah. So anyway, he shows up and it's a totally insane character. It's like so much bigger than anything else in the movie by a major, major factor. He's like bopping around. It's almost like Kramer-ish.
Yes.
Like late Seinfeld Kramer. Not early seasons, but like toward the end where it was like he'd open the door and there was like a 40-second applause break.
So Winkler's showing him around the morgue, getting the lay of the land. And then this is where we cut to him and his fiance. We mentioned all of her, like, go check the apartment, blah, blah, blah. The other thing that makes them psychopaths, they change sides of the bed.
Yeah.
I was like, who are you?
We recently moved and, had established sides of the bed for some time, and my wife was like, well, you could sleep on that side. And I was like, okay, I guess we can do that. It's like, I've been on the same side of the bed for like 15 years. Like I was never a middle bed guy when I was alone. I had a side.
I enjoy a middle,
and
but
so
inadvertently realized that my TV is, must have placed my TV so that I can see it better. Because in the middle, I'm like, oh, it's slightly to the side. Okay. Yeah, we had, when I lived alone and my bed was in the corner. And so there was only one nightstand. And so that's where I slept. And then when my boyfriend moved in with me during COVID, because we thought it was only going to be like a few weeks. And I was like, yeah, you can move in. I was like, sure, you can have this side of the bed for a few weeks, whatever.
Yeah.
And that turned into, now that became my side of the bed. And I was like, I don't have a nightstand, and I like the right, and I prefer the right side of the bed. So it's a double fold. So when we moved last year, I was like, yeah, no, I'm taking the right side of the bed back.
Now that I think of it, I have been the same side of the bed since childhood, basically.
Always
Since
facing the bed, your left?
Yeah, always. Yeah. Anyway.
That's where I like.
So I was like, yeah, I'll switch. Sure, no problem. We ended up putting the bed in a different spot. So I did not have to switch sides of the bed, for those who need to know the conclusion there.
He also offers, but right before we switch, we cut over to the psychopaths who switch sides of the bed. Comment, tweet us, whatever, if you do switch sides, like if you don't have a preference, like if you're actually a psychopath like that.
You probably need to not call the people who did psychopaths as a preamble in order to get them to participate. But
I calls them like I sees them, buddy. Keaton offers Henry Winkler a Snickers, and the way he said like the candy, I was like, I wish he did Zagnut, because that's what he does in Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the same cadence.
He also says, they're not frozen, my fridge is broken. And I was like, what is, like...
Some people do put... I think people put Snickers in the freezer, which is why Snickers came out with Snickers ice cream.
I think you're right, but the last time I did that, I, like, almost broke a tooth. Like, a Three Musketeers in the freezer, very solid. But when you freeze a Snickers, it becomes like a solid ice.
I would think the caramel would do that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very unpleasant...
The only thing I keep in the freezer that is weird like that, which isn't even, like, Snickers aren't weird. What I do is genuinely weird, I know. I put crunchy Cheetos in the freezer.
Yeah, that's a very... I mean, I get... You've talked about before of, like, the sense memory of...
Yeah, it's because they're better... I genuinely think that cheese is better cold. That fake cheese flavor is better cold. But it's because of the ice pack.
Those mini Reese's cups I have blathered on and on about from Aldi are better in the fridge. You get a little snap to them.
You said fridge or freezer?
I've done both, but the fridge, you get the crunch and it doesn't freeze the peanut butter, which I prefer.
Okay, I've done the freezer because I know Wawa sells like Reese's cups. There's like the suction cup thing in the freezer section.
Yes,
which is cool.
Yeah, I think they're better, a little firmer, personally. Anyway, so we're back at the apartment. That's been the candy interlude of this episode. So we find out that Shelley Long lives next door.
She's sleeping with a hot cowboy.
Yeah. This dude looks like a pro wrestler. I did not get any evidence that he was, but he seems like a wrestler from the 80s, like body type.
Oh yeah.
He's standing there in his underwear.
He could fold me like a lawn chair.
But like, couldn't you see this guy as like the jobber that Randy Savage beats in 3 minutes?
Oh yeah, or he could have been the cowboy. Like that could have been his shtick.
He's Tex Anderson. He comes out with this bullwhip and stuff, and then Randy Savage like pile drives him and hits him with the elbow in 3 moves, and it's like, all right, good night.
Yeah.
Definitely the type for that. But yeah, so Shelley's there, and we get introduced to her. I feel like we've told this anecdote before regarding Shelley Long. I'm certain we have.
Oh, the pool?
I don't have that many stories. Yeah. So like that she famously one of the last things she did on Cheers was jumping into this pool, and it was very, very cold according to her, and she wouldn't do this stunt. They had to like drain this millions of gallons of water on the lot in Paramount lot. And I was looking it up because I was like, is this one of those things where it was just like everybody like didn't like her, and so that was the excuse? And I went and found it, and even Shelley Long has been like, yeah, nobody liked me because I was like a huge nightmare to work with.
Even she says it?
She was like, I really found the stress of carrying the narrative on Cheers so much, like, to be weightful. And so, like, at lunchtime, I would go lay down and or meditate in my trailer instead of eating lunch with everybody. And so I'm sure everybody thought I was a dick because I just, like, didn't spend time with them in the off times. And it was just like, yeah, I would probably feel that way. Yeah. Like, if it was like, oh, this person never wants to spend time with us except at work.
Also, I feel like, like my job, I'm on the phones like I take 80 to 100 calls a day. Like, so on my lunch break, I like to not talk to anyone at all. Like my boyfriend will try and talk to me sometimes when we roll home, and I'm like, you have 7 minutes of my 45-minute lunch break to talk to me and let me respond, and then that's all you're getting, buddy. So like, I'm surprised more actors aren't like, we're on and we're energy and we're talking, and at lunch I don't want to do that. I just want to eat my sandwich.
But you were a theater kid. Like, I think most of them are theater kids. Like there's like a real silly play energy to a lot of folks in that world.
Yeah.
No, like, I mean, that was my experience doing improv, which is a lot of theater kids.
Yeah, for sure. I'm surprised that there aren't more people that are like, hey, I need to, I need to not engage for the 45 minutes that we don't have to, so that I can do it well when the cameras are rolling.
I'm sure like the bigger stars will often not want to hang around, which like I totally understand. Like, if you were to tell me like, oh, Ted Danson never hung around with anybody on The Good Place, I'm sure he did, because that's sort of the vibe he is. But it's like, yeah, he's the big star and he wanted to go lay down and take a nap. He's an old guy, like I totally get why you would want it. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm not making this story up. I just picked Ted Danson because we're talking about Cheers. Like I totally get what you're saying, but I just feel like if you do that, you have to go to lunch like once a week, and then
no, I'm just shocked that there aren't more stories of people who are like not that, so that it would become not a bitch thing and be like, hey, they're just one of those people that like needs to recharge on lunch so that they're good to go.
I think you can do that if like on Friday you don't do that.
Fair.
You know what I mean? Like you put a little bit of effort in, and it's like, it's just part of, human whatever, is like, you're going to make snap judgments about people. It's like, yeah, well, if it's like every Friday you're here for lunch and the other days you're like, yeah, I just like to meditate, we're going into Friday, it's whatever. I could see that going over. But she was like, yeah, no, I didn't hang out with anybody socially during the workday, so they probably all thought I was a dick. I just thought it was very interesting to see.
I never knew that she also said that.
Yeah.
Because apparently Henry Winkler said that she was the most difficult person he's ever worked with.
Yeah, no, I think she probably is like one of those people who is like takes the work more seriously than others do, and that causes problems. I'm sure. I'm sure of this.
She could be that pendulum is either Shelley Long or Jared Leto, and I would much rather hear about Shelley Long being kind of difficult than I sent used condoms and dead rats to people.
Right. One of those things is a criminal act to me. The other one is just like, everybody works with somebody they don't like that much. Yeah. Pretty much true of every job.
Also, his fiancé doesn't live with him, which I think is that weird for
it was the 80s,
now,
baby.
Not for them?
It was not weird then. Yeah, no. It's the 80s, baby. You couldn't live together. That was a sin in the eyes of God.
But like, how do you know you are compatible to live, like, to marry someone is to live with someone forever? You're just going to like, you're gonna buy the car without test driving it first?
Why do you think the divorce rate was so high, baby? We just winged it.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, I mean it's like, it's one of those things that I remember our mom even like, as this changed culturally, being like, oh, they moved in together before they're married, and I remember being like, yeah, why wouldn't you? That seems like a completely logical move. And it's
I don't remember that sort of. I don't remember when that shift happened.
Yeah. That definitely happened more recently than you think, that people would like actually move into. I'm sure it happened in the 80s, but like it was uncommon for people to be fully living together. So the part of the movie that I truly like could not get over. So Winkler goes into the office and he's there with Keaton, and he gets his lunch out and he's like, ugh, I ordered egg salad and they gave me tuna fish. And Keaton correctly is like, well, go get a different sandwich. And he's like, no, I mean, you can't do that.
I will say, in Winkler's defense here, it is delivery in 1980, so it's not like DoorDash or Grubhub where you can go on an app and be like, they fucked it up, give me a credit or a new sandwich.
I had to pick up the goddamn phone and been like, you delivered me the wrong sandwich. I want the sandwich that I ordered.
Yeah, but if I'm hungry, there's probably like, I've had a really bad like few deliveries with DoorDash for some reason. like in a row, they like consistently like forgot something or something was just completely wrong or whatever. And I was like, it's too late in the day and I am too exhausted and like mentally broken that I'm just going to eat the thing that I didn't order because I don't feel like waiting another 30 minutes for the real one to come.
I can see doing that on a one-off. Winkler says he does it every night.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
That he gets lunch from this, gets his dinner from this place every night and eats the wrong sandwich every single night. That it's never correct. It's got the wrong bread. It's got mustard on it. It's got the wrong condiment.
It's fully his fault at this point.
Yeah, and I'm like, one, order from a different place. You're in New York City. Certainly there's another option.
There's delis everywhere, buddy.
Or two, just check. Like, I'm ordering this, and if it's wrong, I'm going to send it back. Like, just say that.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy. Because, like, I was recently listening to a thing where, and look, I have a lot of respect for the people who do jobs that suck, like door dashing and all those things. Like, it's awful work conditions. It's really shitty. But they were talking about how, like, oh, like you shouldn't report that stuff if you get the wrong food because like it reflects poorly on your driver. And I'm like, well, was it that the driver made a mistake or did the restaurant make a mistake? Certainly this is like a thing that can be identified, you know, like if it's the restaurant's problem, it should be identified as the restaurant. And if it's like Derek picked up the wrong bag of food, well,
I've had it be both, which is why they always ask you what happened.
Yeah.
So like, because we ordered from a pizza place that we'd love, always get from there. We normally don't do the DoorDash, but I was like, I don't feel like dealing with it. I'm just do DoorDash. And he delivered, we got like a small pizza and something else, whatever. And he delivered our food and then someone else's pizza and their name was on it.
Yeah.
And so like clearly he had, and like their receipt was attached and they had also ordered the same pizza we did plus the one we got. So we didn't even get the pizza we wanted. I was just like, this is a regular pepperoni and not the like special specific pickle pizza that this restaurant makes that I can't get everywhere. I was mad.
Yeah. I was just like flabbergasted listening to this. Is like, oh, like if you don't get your drink, don't say anything. And it's like, I don't want the guy to necessarily go deliver me a Coke, but I also don't want to pay $3 for something that I didn't receive. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So, I mean, like,
anyway.
I feel like also delivery in restaurant feels very different. Like in a restaurant, I generally, unless it's like wrong, like incorrect, I'm like, I can probably eat whatever's was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. Later in the movie, Winkler like goes to the deli, gets the sandwich and it's wrong. And he's still in the deli. And Keaton's like, just go back up. I'm like, just turn around to the counter and be like, this was supposed to be wheat bread. I don't want to eat white bread or whatever the hell it is, you know? Like, Jesus, man. It's making me scream at the television. On a more positive note, Clint Howard!
Clint Howard, baby!
He rents a limo from Keaton, which is his side hustle out of the job that he has.
I'm a little confused. So, is a hearse only for funerals or is a hearse for morgues too? Is it the same word for both?
I believe it's the same vehicle, yes.
I don't know why this hearse has a backseat. I thought those were just flat.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense for the morgue to have a limo. It makes sense for a funeral home to have a limo because it's like, you know, you take the family transporting and stuff. That all makes sense to me. I don't get why the morgue would have a limo. So it's got to be the hearse because it has like city corner on the side.
Yeah, that's the thing. So when you once pick up a body or like you were with someone who picked up a body?
Yes, in high school, I had a friend whose father owned a funeral home. His family owned a funeral home.
They owned like the funeral home for the the town, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there were others, but theirs was the one that was like the most reputable and stuff. And my buddy got off his, work. I think he worked at the grocery store where I worked as well. So he got off that job and he was like, because it was right by our house. He texted me and he came and hang out and we were hanging out. And then like in 30 minutes after he got there, his dad called him and was like, I need you to go do a pickup. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Can I come? And he was like, really? And I was like, I don't know. It might be interesting. And he was like, okay, sure. Like and he called his dad and he's like, yeah, if he puts a suit on, he can come. So I had a suit.
It's not like you're like squeezing the body. You're just like, I want to be there.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Every time I tell this story, people are so afraid of death. Like people were very horrified. But I was like, I asked what the situation would be, and it was like she was at a nursing home, so it's going to be like a body bag, and like I never saw the woman.
Yeah. Well, plus it's helpful to, I guess it's helpful to have another set of hands to carry, right?
Yeah. Well, we used a gurney.
Or a slider, I guess.
Yeah. And so like, but people are probably weirded out listening to this story. But yeah, so we went and they just used a Chevy Suburban.
Oh, really?
With like the seats taken out in the back.
Were they they were taken out or they folded down?
I think they were like out. Like you remember we had the van, you could take the seat out of the van. So I think it was like that.
Okay.
It was completely flat back there. And so like there was a gurney, like a, thing, and we went to the place and we pulled the gurney out and got the body in the body bag and put it on the gurney and wheeled it to the car and then brought it inside and whatever. But I never saw the body or anything. It was just like it might as well have been a bag of laundry. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to this person, but it just like it just wasn't a human.
It was just a black bag.
Conceptually a human.
Yeah, you can't see through a black bag.
Right, exactly, like a very thick bag. But yeah, I remember thinking of like, I thought this would be like a super weird thing, like kind of in like I've always said I wanted to be a writer, and it's like maybe I'll put this in a book one day, and it was just like, this is not that interesting. Like it is interesting because other people haven't done it, but it is not like worthy. It's not a tale worth telling, so to speak. Like other than if the question ever comes up is like, what's the weirdest way you've made $40?
I forgot you got paid.
Well, I didn't ask to be paid or expect to be paid. I was just like, oh, I'm bored, and this is something to do on a Friday night because I'm a dork who lives in a relatively small town. So I did it, and then like a couple of days. Yeah, well, no, that it was formal. Like at school on Monday, he handed me an envelope with like a check from the funeral.
Oh,
it was like thank you. It might have been $60. I honestly don't even remember, but it was like he paid me decently for a few hours, like an hour and a half's worth of work. Yeah. But I was like shocked by it. It was like, here's a check from the funeral home. It was like, pickup or something was on.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we did not use a hearse, but I've seen a hearse, and the only thing I can think is like hearses generally look like limos except for the shape of them, like in terms of styling. I mean, modern limos are now SUVs, but I feel like back in the day, limos were like long Cadillac looking cars.
I think so. I would say that.
And so hearses were often the same styling of like, the cloth roof and the chrome accents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like I could see it working if it was.
It's just the seats that was my main stylistically, whatever. He puts a little magnet decal over the county coroner sign, or whatever.
The top hat over the siren is really the king of.
Well, I'm like, what emergency do you need a siren?
Yes.
Like, you're not the police, you're the morgue,
right?
Like theoretically, your dead body's already dead. Like there's no bringing it back.
The coroner never needs to rush.
No.
There's never a time the coroner needs to rush the job. Speaking of coroner movies, have you ever seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe?
I've not. I've heard really good things.
Got to put that on your list for this Halloween. Super good.
I think my boyfriend likes it.
It's awesome. Really, really good movie. Really tense and scary, and like genuinely like heart racing, scary, tension type stuff. Really, really good. Highly recommend.
I also always think about that for the Haunting of Hill House when they had the whole funeral sequence where they're preparing her body for
behind, right? The kid gets left behind, right? Or are you talking about a different part?
No, I was talking about when the older sister prepares Nell. Spoiler alert!
Oh.
Spoiler alert for. Oops. You can bleep out the name I said.
I'm not gonna do that. It's 4 years old. It's fine. If anybody gets mad, you had 4 years. I'm sorry.
And it's very good. And we've gushed about that on this show before.
The statute of limitations is over. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Winkler heads home after this whole limo shenanigans, and he sees Shelley. This guy like almost knocks him over getting out of the building, and then he sees Shelley.
Oh, I didn't process that was supposed to be her attacker.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so she's all beat up and the bloody nose and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I have a tissue in my purse." And meanwhile, the elevator is moving, and so Winkler is digging through her purse when the elevator dings open, and there's this little Girl Scout there, and she's like, "Mugger!" And she blows a whistle, and her whole Girl Scout troop pulls out of this apartment, and they all start wailing on Winkler with.
Apparently, Shannon Doherty is
Girl
one
Scout
of these
cookies.
girls.
No way! That's funny.
Yeah, and Kevin Costner is a frat boy in this movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I feel like I would have recognized him. He must be like in the back.
No, apparently when he's got a sweater around his shoulders and a checkered shirt when Keaton's doing the like beer bottle thing.
Oh, the conga line bit?
I don't know if it's a conga line. He's just like balancing a beer bottle on his head. Like, oh, look how long I can do it.
They're like marching behind him though.
Oh, I didn't notice that, but
okay. So the girl's wailing with the cookies, and then we cut to the classic movie prop, the blue bag for the ice cubes with like the thing on top.
yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told this story before. I hope it's a fresh one because I don't have that many fresh ones. But I went to somebody's house once and someone had twisted an ankle and they were like, oh, give him an ice pack. It's in the thing. And I was pulling the drawer open and finding that blue bag in the thing was like one of the more delightful things that I can remember of like, what? You can, like, I've never seen one in real life. And I was like, in my late 20s and it was like, oh my God, they're real. Like I was like the M&M commercial.
They don't look like how you would expect when they're not filled.
No,
it's very weird.
It's like
looking.
a weird deflated balloon thing.
Yeah. The other thing in the same vein is the hot water bottles.
Yes. Yeah. Never seen one in real life.
I have because we use them in our bloody shows. I was the pregnant woman and gave birth, and so it was full of blood that I sprayed. And the best part was that we kept it in the freezer, so it was nice and cold on me because that room got hot, and then I got to spray everyone with cold water.
Yeah, the idea that like the house would be so cold that you would take boiling water and just like put it between the sheets to warm the bed up is just bonkers to me. Like, what a wild world.
Yeah, well, my college boyfriend did that with just a regular like Nalgene bottle. He was like, if you just put hot water in there, it'll warm up. He's like, it's a camping trick. Because I was always cold because I guess the heat was weird in his place or whatever.
Yeah,
and he was like, here, just put hot water in here and it'll warm up the bed. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah, it just seems very bizarre. I mean, obviously it works, but I've never encountered the hot water bottle in the wild.
Yeah.
So he's got it on his head, he got wailed on, and then he like goes to leave, and she's like, "Is your head okay?" And I'm like, "He got hit with a box of cookies. Like he's fine."
Yeah.
He's more embarrassed than anything else that he got beat up by a bunch of children.
They also talk about how sex workers without a pimp are at higher risk or whatever. Yeah. And I was actually talking. I was like, now I want a movie set in this era, where like a bunch of badass ladies band together and become their own pimp, and it's sort of like the Deadly Viper Assassin Squad vibes.
So you want this exact movie, but without the two men in the movie? I
mean, kind of.
you just want the League of Their Own version of this.
I mean, kind of, yeah, but more that like, because then they can like, they respect a man, so that we'll be like, oh, he's leaving, and it can be like one of them in like the Ninja Turtle incognito outfit. So, like, no one notices it's not a dude.
One of them in a trench coat with a fedora pulled down low.
Yeah, and, like, hair's tucked up into the fedora so they use it down the end of the hallway. Be like, oh, he's leaving, but he's always watching. And then secretly they're all, like, badass, like, assassins. Not assassins, I guess. Fighters.
You're kind of describing the movie Hustlers, except in addition to being sex workers, they're also running a criminal theft ring.
Yeah, I mean they can do the theft ring too if they want here in my movie.
I'm just saying Hustlers is basically the movie you want to see.
Yeah, it's been on my list.
I think that's what the title is.
Yeah, Hustlers with J-Lo.
Yeah.
Oh, we also missed the moment when right before he sees Shelley Long, he's like he comes in after Leonard, the nephew, has been like a slobby dick, and then snaps at Keaton, and I was like, that's not Keaton's fault that the guy is an asshole. And he said, yeah. And Keaton gives his like very like great nuanced moment where he's like, I thought we were friends, man. And it's like kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's I like, as much as I felt like he was doing somebody else's shtick, like he's good. He's always good.
Yeah, I've never seen a bad Keaton.
I mean, I'm sure it exists. That Jack Frost movie is probably terrible.
Oh yeah, you're very right. I'm sure.
I don't know how committed Keaton is to playing a snowman.
I'm guessing both of them are on the same level.
Yeah. But there is another great... Winkler gets a lot of great bits of business in this. We talked about the plant earlier, but I love this one on the subway where he's sitting there. Keaton gets off the subway. This guy with a saxophone comes right up to him, and so he's like, all right, here's some change. And then the guy proceeds to play harder, and so he gets out his checkbook.
Apparently that was Ron Howard, according to IMDb.
Oh, in the sax get up? I did not recognize
He had
him.
2 cameos. This one and the people making out against the building was him and his wife.
Oh, okay. Well, that's both of those are good. You got to get yourself in there if you're a director. I get that.
Yeah. Okay, oh, this is Keaton. Also, this is where he suggests that they become the pimp, or what he's got,
Yes.
love manager
Yes, love
or love broker.
And
love broker.
I just feel like they don't do enough. Like so it's like we're about 35, 40 minutes in this movie, which is like an hour and 45-ish, give or take. Yeah. And I remember hitting the button, like the pause button, and being like, this movie still doesn't have a conflict. How far into this are we? And I was like, 35 minutes. Good Lord. Like, there's still no movie happening yet. It's just like scenes so far, you know? And so I really wanted like more. Henry Winkler is just like so put upon and so miserable. Like he doesn't seem unhappy. He just seems to be floating. You know? What I mean?
He seems like a ship adrift.
Yeah, but I feel like this is such a drastic move that he should be more unhappy in his life.
Yeah, like I assume he's unhappy with his fiance, but he doesn't say it. He doesn't, and
right.
Not that you have to like the character have to like state everything, but like it doesn't. His actions don't feel like I'm unhappy. They feel like, well, you know,
like for example, with the fiance, like they're about to have sex, and then the music comes on, and she won't have sex anymore, and then she's like put on all her clothes and she's leaving, and like give me like a sad, annoyed Winkler like sitting down on the couch and angrily opening a magazine or clicking, like giving him like pointing the TV on angrily, you know, and just like miserable, like show me that he's miserable.
Yeah,
because I get it, but I don't. It's not really conveyed. So this leads to they keep having a scene where Shelley and Henry Winkler are coming home at the same time because she obviously sleeps over at her client's house and or hotel room or whatever, and he's coming back from the night shift, and so they keep running into each other, and she's like, oh, let's have breakfast, and he's like, okay, and so she's going to make eggs in the kitchen, and then she's like, I'm gonna get comfortable, and she's just standing in the kitchen in her underwear, and I was like, okay, you know this man has a fiance, this is wildly inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, because she's like trying to open the window and it's painted shut and there's no air in there, and it's like, well, I mean, I had a small ass kitchen too, but like,
yeah.
It's
a little forward to be like, I'm going to pop my shirt off while I make breakfast. Is that cool? Person who I barely know their first name.
Yeah, because they're like, it's not like it's a thong underwear, but it's not like she's in like boy shorts.
She's in, like regular ass underwear, but she's still in her underwear. And it's like, you've seen his fiance. Great eggs though.
Yeah,
Henry Winkler once scrambled.
They're good looking,
nice and fluffy looking. And Shelley has some nice sunny side uppers. Really well cooked eggs in this movie.
Oh yeah. Oh, because she says all men love scrambled, and I was like, I don't know who you're on.
Incorrect.
I don't know who you've met, Shelley Long.
Yeah, if I'm like, if someone is making eggs for a group, of course I'm like, yeah, scrambled eggs.
In that setting, yes, it is the easiest thing to do.
But if it's like, hey, I'm gonna make you 2 eggs, I'm like, well, can you make them bad boys, over easy for me? Because like that's my preferred way to eat an egg.
Yeah, I want a dip. I want the egg. I want the yolk run.
Yeah.
So
he also, when she's in her underwear, wipes his face with a slice of bread, which is just like it feels very improv. I don't know if it was or not, but it's really good.
Yeah. And then we see him at the barber, and he's very clearly trying to be like, this isn't right to his barber, and his barber's like, no,
yes,
you like it, it's good. And then Keaton shows up, and he like is advocating for him. He's like, his sideburns are all off. You got to fix this. And what's wrong? What's going on here? Fix all this.
Yeah. I will say it is hard to be assertive at the hairdresser, and I have had to I've had like I don't love this, but it's fine. I'm just going to deal with it. But I recently had this nightmare situation, and it happened to me twice, where I like described what I wanted and showed them pictures on my phone of like how my hair looks of my own, of pictures of me, not like, oh, this is a famous person, give me this look. It's like, this is a picture of my head. Like, I know my hair can do this, and it's about this long on the sides and about this long on top. I'm like, okay. And they do the cut, and I looked like fucking Prince Valiant. Like I had this bowl cut looking thing, and
you were Will
like
from Stranger Things.
Oh, it was straight up a Will haircut, and so it was like the top was about the same as you've ever seen it, but the sides were like really long and floofy. And I got in the car and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, I can't walk around like this. And I'm like texting pictures to my wife and to friends of mine. I'm like, this looks awful, right? Like this is not just me like like being in my head, and they're like, no, you look terrible, go get that fixed. And so I walked back in and I was just like, hey, this is a disaster. Like, this needs to be fixed, please. And then luckily another person was like, come here, and they just like 2 seconds fix it. And then
was this like a Supercuts kind of place, or
yeah. And then the same thing happened to me again, and it was like way too long. I was like, this needs to be. I hadn't even gotten out of the chair. I was like, you got to make that shorter. I don't know what this is, but it ain't it. I look like Prince Valiant. No, thank you.
I mean, I haven't had a haircut in like over a year at this point.
Right. Well, you're going for the Kurt Russell look at this point.
We'll see what happens. My boyfriend and I go to the same, or I haven't in a while, but go to the same barber, and he was like, would you schedule, he told Jack, he was like, would you schedule an appointment on a Saturday and then just have Andrew come visit? Because I haven't seen him in a year. So he scheduled his next haircut for a Saturday, so I'm going to go visit.
That's nice.
Maybe I'll get my hair shampooed. I don't know.
So the fiance's family comes over. It's Thanksgiving. Henry Winkler's mother is there as well. There's a bottle of Crown Roos on the thing, which is a very cheap vodka. But I've
never even heard of that.
So I hadn't either. I was unfamiliar with this brand, but I once had an old friend, and we were drinking, and they were talking about this Crown Roos. And I was like, do you mean Crown Royal? And they're like, no, Crown Roos. One time we put Skittles in it. They're telling the story. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't know what Crown Roos is. And they're like, it's vodka. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like vodka. Like, I don't know that one, whatever. And I did not believe them. And then later they were at a liquor store, and they like texted me a picture, and it's just a different Popov, which was our cheap vodka. Did you also have Popov?
Yeah, we had the Popov.
Okay. So Popov was what I knew as the, like, it costs $9 and it comes in a plastic jug and it smells like paint thinner, and it's what you drink when you're 21.
Well, that's what,
or 19.
My best friend in the world, her father is a wealthy doctor, and we were going up to her Vermont house, a bunch of us, and then while we were at this little general store on the way, I was like, oh, we should have brought Bloody Mary stuff. Let's get Bloody Mary mix and vodka. And so we just grabbed whatever, like, not even bottom shelf, it was like floor vodka. Yeah. And as we're bringing it into the car, her dad sees it, and he's like, are you serious? And then he looked at my best friend, and he was like, are you going to be drinking this? And she was like, I don't know. And he was like, she was like, I probably will. And he was like, the drunks I take care of at work drink better liquor than this. And he went back inside and bought us better vodka.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. It's not. I mean, it's straight awful. But so the whole the parents, the dad I recognized but did not look up. But he is a character actor who's played a lot of surly fathers in his career, and he's like, we don't drink alcohol.
It is weird that he didn't know that about his fiance's parents. Like,
agreed.
That's a big thing.
And also, I feel like there's an implication when it's like I have had this annoy me when, like, I'm like, oh, do you want anything to drink? And they're like, oh, I don't drink. I'm like, I have non-alcoholic things. Like,
I have water and soda in my fridge, buddy.
Right. It's like, I have some juices even. Like, I would happily give you something to drink that wasn't alcohol. I'm not an idiot.
I got some Ecto Cooler hiding somewhere.
Right. So they're sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner. And also, this is the point where I learned that Shelley Long's character is Belinda Keaton, which is a very bizarre thing.
Oh, I did notice her last name was Keaton.
Yes. Sorry, you're about to say something.
So his fiance, obviously, like we said, has a lot of neuroses, and we meet her parents, and they're clearly like the same person, like very neurotic, very straight-laced, like no nonsense, stuffy. And then we meet Henry Winkler's mom, and she's like very like, she comes out and she's like, well, the turkey's almost dead, haha, like, fun. And I was like, oh, that's that this is gonna be the joke that, like, whatever. And then Shelley Long calls Michael Keaton. I ruined myself. Yeah. Shelley Long calls Henry Winkler and is like, hey, I got arrested. Everything I have was in my apartment. And Alfred? Is that the pimp's name? He used to always take care of all this for me. Yeah. And he's like, okay, I'll figure something out. I was like, you could have also called Keaton and been like, hey, buddy, you clearly don't have plans for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Can you go do this for me?
Although that would have been really sad, because it would have been like Michael Keaton alone eating a Swanson's TV dinner and drinking 3 beers, thinking that Henry Winkler is inviting him over for Thanksgiving, and then having to be like, oh, no, not that.
Oh, you're
I have
right.
work for you to do. Like, it would have been so sad.
He's making a Thanksgiving drink with cold turkey and cranberry sauce.
Wild turkey.
Wild turkey. Cold duck. That's the other one. That's
Cold turkey would be a weird thing to put on the name of alcohol because it's what you're doing when you're quitting doing.
You're right.
something.
I was thinking of cold duck.
Yeah. But yeah, I just like my quick vision is like Keaton picking up the phone and being like, "Yellow," and it's just you see the steam coming off the tray in front of him. You see the turkey and the gravy and the mashed potatoes, and then you hear Henry Winkler, and he's like thrilled because it's like, oh, this is it. This is the invite. It's late, but this is the invite. Okay, we're really friends now.
So he goes to sex worker night court.
Yes,
which is a show I would watch. And
it would be a lot sadder than this.
I know. And the entire family came for some reason.
Yeah. Well, because they rented a car, you got to get use out of it.
And so his fiance says to his mother, like, "That's his neighbor, the whore." And she gives a look, and I was like, I thought the look was like, "Girl, calm down." Also, she's better than you. But I didn't. I thought the mom was going to be that vibe, and then super not that.
Yeah. Well, because earlier we heard Henry Winkler say that the mom goes to see a medium or a psychic every Friday just so she can yell at his father's ghost.
Oh, you're right. I totally forgot about that one.
They set her up as like a nag.
You're right. I forgot that. So Shelley Long and her client are in court, and he's like, she's like, he tried to take money back, and he's like, she bit me, and pulls down his butt, pulls down his pants to show his butt with a bite mark on it, and I was like,
yeah,
if it doesn't fit, you must quit. Prove that.
So you need Shelley to give you a little chomping.
Prove that's her mouth. That's all I'm saying.
Excuse me, miss. Could you please bite the?
Can we see your bite radius, Shelley Long?
Can you please bite the defendant? Or they bring her out an apple and they're like, "Can you bite this apple?" And then they're holding the apple up next to his ass cheek and like comparing notes.
Frankly, I think that scene would have been funnier.
Henry Winkler gets called as an expert witness because they're like, "We don't have anybody here who could determine bite radius," and she's like, "He's a coroner." Then he has to get up and like he's like measuring it.
See, actually no, it should have been Michael Keaton came with him to court, and he was the one who suggested, "Hey, this isn't fair. Prove it's her mouth."
Yeah. And the guy's like, "I'll hold you in contempt," but then suddenly it's like, "No, wait a minute.
That's actually
he's got a good idea."
Fair point. And so we hand wave over what happens in court to just cut right to some good old sex shaming because this is America.
She gets bailed out is the ultimate answer here. I don't know what the clearly the charges are dismissed or something.
Yeah, the whole drive home they're like, "How can you live next to her? She's a prostitute," and I was like, she's a human being. Like,
also, like, what is living next? Like, how is he in control of that? Like, he signed a lease. It's not like he can be like, "Well, this is worth throwing thousands of dollars away on because I don't like the job the person next to me has." Also, he has like, so the mom's yelling at him on one side, the fiance's yelling on the other, the in-laws or potential in-laws are yelling at him from the front, and he has the exact same like tunnel vision sadness look that Dustin Hoffman has at the end.
Did we just talk about this before?
I don't know if it was on the podcast or in real life, but yes, I did just make this joke.
I was like, okay, everyone calm down. It's not like he's patronizing. Not that there's anything wrong with him patronizing a sex worker, but like
I would say
he's engaged. He shouldn't, but yes.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think there's wrong with a person who is not cheating on someone to visit a sex worker. I would say that Henry Winkler is in the wrong if he is doing it because he's engaged. But like, unless that's part of their agreement, like that's not okay. But yeah, it's 1982. What do you want?
I know.
I mean, just even now, it's still like totally ridiculous.
Now with OnlyFans being like a whole huge thing, I feel like it's a slightly different terrain.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly different, but I still think there's like, if you found out that someone was a sex worker, people would be like, "Oh my god,"
yeah,
or that they used to be one. That could be like very damning to a person's reputation, I feel.
Yeah. So Henry Winkler goes right to Michael Keaton's house or apartment and is like, "We should be be morgue pimps."
Yeah, this sequence where like Keaton is like, hell yeah, he's so excited, is Keaton's best work in the whole movie. And like I said, he's generally good, but this part with the chalkboard, and he's like, there's a room full of sex workers, and he writes prostitution on the board, and he starts doing like word diagramming,
Like etymology that he's making up.
Yes. Yeah, it's like pros. Okay, we don't need that. He just crosses it out, and then it's like
Tit.
TIT. We all know what that is. UT, that's two backwards, two tits, and then shun. We don't want to do any shunning, so let's throw that part out too. And it's just it's such a good bit of performance. It's like everyone in the room really helps sell it too. It's just great. And it's very good.
Even better because Keaton is playing it like he's delivering the speech from Miracle. Like that is the exact energy he's giving.
He's like diagramming the play that's going to win the game.
He's like, this is I don't even know. I literally couldn't name you like 3 consecutive words from that stupid speech. My brain always wants to go to the Goonies. This is our time down here. Forgive me for not knowing the Miracle speech.
I mean, I like Miracle and I don't know it either, so it's fine.
Is that Kurt Russell?
Mm-hmm. With the real bad Herb Brooks haircut.
I couldn't remember if it was Kurt Russell or the other one. He was the president in Wall-E, or Fred Willard.
No. It's a serious performance. It's
I know, but I thought maybe it was like Fred Willard doing a serious thing.
No. It's Kurt.
I guess that is a Disney movie. It would be Kurt Russell.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like delightful. He's like rambling on, making absolutely no sense. It's kind of like a TED Talk now, where like if you don't pay attention, it seems very profound, and then if you think too hard about like 80% of them, you're like, no, wait a minute.
Yeah. What are you saying?
So they end up basically like, that says, my note says Winkler promises 10X, but it looked like COX. And I'm like, what does Brian Cox have to do with this? He's not in this movie. I'm like trying to think, I'm like, is there a person who looked like Brian Cox? Why did I write this down? No, so Winkler is like, the women are all starting to leave.
He gives a great speech that like is a great platform for sex work.
He ignites a workers' revolution, basically. He's
yes.
like, you should own the means of production. You are the means of production.
Mm-hmm. He's like, we'll take 10% to like facilitate everything, but everything else is yours.
Yeah. And
you get a 401k, you get dental.
Well, there's a great montage where they start, going through all this stuff. And then at one point he pulls out this piece of paper. And I don't know if you're familiar with these things. I had to go look it up. It's called a pension, I think.
No.
PENSION. Apparently it's this thing that companies did in like back in the historical times where like workers would be set up for their retirement by the organization that they worked for, that like the company would provide the money. It's a pension, maybe it's like a
you're doing a fucking bit. It took me too long. You know my brain is broken. You know my brain is broken right now. That's not fair.
I was like, he looks so confused.
You know I'm broken.
It's like, certainly he's picked up. Nope.
I didn't.
Nope. Okay. All right. Let me move the shelf down a little lower.
A pension.
A pension plan. Yes.
So could you give me the 2-sentence version of the difference between like your company contributing to your 401k and a pension?
A pension plan generally, although some of them do, doesn't require employee input.
Oh, so it's the 401k is you both. The pension is just the employer.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
A 401k is like sometimes you get a little supplement from the company in addition to mostly your own money. But a pension plan was like the company invests money on your behalf and then pays you from it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Not many of those left.
No. And if you want mail every 2 hours, sign up for a 401k. You try and do paperless, and they're like, no, we're going to send you 3 letters to confirm that you wanted paperless. And it's like, please stop sending me letters. Unless something happens to my money, please don't send me letters like that.
My favorite is I just moved and did a change of address. So I went on the website and filled out a change of address.
Oh, no.
And then they sent a letter to both my old address and the new address confirming that I had changed my address.
Do they just like have extra stamps lying around?
I guess so.
Like I think 401k companies are just what's going to keep the postal service in business forever. Also, this leads into a montage, and in Winkler's speech, he says, "You work hard for your money," and I was like, "Oh, great! This is a needle drop."
Surely we're gonna get the yeah.
And rather than the amazing, like upbeat, makes you want to dance, work hard for the money that is already about sex work, it's some weird slow jam that I've never heard of.
Is that song out yet in 1982?
Oh,
That feels like late 80s to me.
that could be.
Also,
Wait, no, that's
song.
Is it Donna Summer or Gloria Estefan?
I really don't know. Because I was just gonna say that my brain is broken because I think of it got turned into a fast food jingle, didn't it?
It did? Or Hard for the Money?
Isn't there like a "you work hard for your money, so McDonald's treats you right"?
It might have. I think of the Birdcage because Hank Azaria sings it.
Okay. I also love the two parts of this montage. One, Keaton like stuffing tissues in so he looks bulkier, so that if they like have to,
He looks more
appear
muscly.
threatening. Yeah, and then the other part, which maybe isn't in the montage, but it's shortly thereafter, if it's not, where Keaton's like, "Congratulations, you own a fast food restaurant."
No, it's Winkler who said.
Or Winkler, not Keaton. Yeah.
Well, also during the montage, Winkler's on his computer because they mentioned before that he's a financial wizard and he works in the morgue for some reason, which
Well, he says
really
it earlier.
gets fully like
He talks about it with Michael Keaton earlier in the movie. He's like, "Why do you read the Wall Street Journal?" And he's like, "Oh, I used to be in stocks, but I don't do that anymore." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because it made me too neurotic. I threw up every day."
Oh, okay. So I forgot that they did explain that. But like the jump to morgue feels weird to me. Like,
Agreed.
you can go from
agreed.
you can be in like a money person, not in Wall Street. Like you can do that for lots of companies need money person.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But as he's on his like green and black computer, I'm assuming it's just I don't know how they made computer visuals in 1982 or 1981.
Yeah.
There's so many typos. There's so many typos.
I didn't notice it, but that's really funny. I assume some like PA had to type it all out.
Yeah, I don't know because the word statement is missing a T. The word investment is missing an N. Like consecutively, like every time you see it in that montage, it's like 4 or 5 times. Every time there's a typo.
Yeah. Wow, that's really funny. Like in the big stuff up top, or
Yes,
like
in the
slow
like
down? Wow,
like
okay.
investment
The headings.
statement. Yeah, the
Okay.
headers.
Oh wow. I didn't catch that. That's funny. I usually do catch that stuff. So the job of managing all this is slowly killing Henry Winkler, who seems to do more work than Michael Keaton by a factor of like 4 to 5.
I don't know if it's more work or different work because I don't think Winkler's taken the girls anywhere.
Yeah, I guess you're right. We just don't see that part of it. We only see Winkler, but that makes sense. He's the protagonist. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, I think Keaton is like out in the field. He's the field reporter, and Winkler is the desk reporter.
Okay, that makes sense. So Winkler comes back to a full-on frat party at the morgue, which is like going insane. I'm bummed I didn't know to look for Kevin Costner. That's very funny. And my favorite bit is like Winkler's trying to end the party. He's like, "You know what you're partying next to? Dead bodies. I'll show you." And he rips the drawer open and it's Clint Howard. And he's like, "So that's what it's like," which is just perfect delivery.
But also, like, that begs the question, what happened to the body that was in there?
I mean,
Because there's no way Winkler doesn't know which drawers have bodies in them. So did they move it?
Yeah, I don't know. They must have, right? Or they're just in there with it. It doesn't seem like there'd be enough.
I hope to God, no. Also, it took this long to see boobs.
Yeah,
in a movie about sex workers.
I could not believe that. I will say there is a really egregious thing that happens. I know we were talking about Shelley Long and saying like, it's hard to know, much of, we don't know her obviously. But if Shelley Long does this and not just her character, then I have a lot of judgment for her because they leave a bagel shop and Shelley Long just starts chomping into a raw nude bagel.
I mean,
it's not even cut in half. There's no butter. There's no cream schmear. There's no sandwiching. Just biting into a bagel? What a maniac.
I guess if it's a plain bagel, I wouldn't.
It's a plain bagel.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I will say I like the satisfying like tooth on the crust of the bagel that you don't get if it's cut in half. It's not as satisfying to bite through just the half the bagel. So like, I'll do the cream cheese sandwich on the bagel. Do you know what I mean?
So, so you're going to take like
I make it whole again so that I get that satisfying bite. Although, honestly,
I got no problem with this.
my favorite bagel is the Asiago cheese bagel from Panera. Because when I worked in an office 6 years ago at this point, Jesus Christ, every like Friday, someone would bring in something. It was pretzels or donuts, or my favorite was the bagels, and it was Panera. I would be like, wait for there to be a moment for me to sneak over there and get one of the cheese ones, because there's only like 2 in there, and they were the best.
Sure. I totally agree. I'll say, here's my wild hot take. If a bagel is fresh, like it's not a grocery store bagel or a freezer bagel, I don't want to toast it.
You don't want to toast it.
No, baby.
That's fair.
Nice fresh bread, yeah. But I went to school with a kid from New York, and he ate one that way. There was a bagel store in College Park. Not that it was like some great bagel store, but it's like a place to get breakfast when you had a hangover or something.
Like a Manhattan
and
bagel?
No. It was like a mom and pop shop.
Okay.
So it was right next to a Five Guys, and 99% of the time,
French fries and a bagel.
Oh no! I just would go get Five Guys.
I would now I want to try Bagel Burger.
Seems like the ratio would be off. I had the same fleeting thought just now.
Probably,
I feel like your
but
bread
also,
to meat ratio is wrong.
I generally don't like bagel sandwiches. I prefer a biscuit sandwich.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I get that, but I would go to my friends would go get bagel sandwiches, and then I would get a burger and fries, and then we would meet outside of the tables to eat. And people are always like, oh, and I'm like, don't you touch the French fry. You had every opportunity to ask me
Go
to
inside
buy
and get a
fries.
kid's fry for $3.
Yeah, exactly. Nope. Absolutely unacceptable to me. You chose a bagel sandwich. This was your folly. But he got a bagel without toasting it, and I was like, oh, this is a revelation. Didn't know that was I'd never had that. Anyway, so she eats this raw bagel, and then later we cut to it's a big old Christmas party.
There's a company Christmas party right after he buys them the burger place.
Yes, and Winkler gets, I think, a mink hat. It's definitely an animal.
That's some bad hat, Harry.
Totally ridiculous for Winkler, but in the fun way. And they get Keaton a practical gift. They get him a tape recorder, like a boombox thing, which I was like, that feels like you don't like Henry Winkler very much.
Because Henry Winkler's like excited about the hat. He's like, this is a great hat. And everyone's like, it looks so good on you. And I was like, are we looking at the same hat?
The movie doesn't agree because you never see it again.
You're right.
And if they thought it looked good, you would see the hat again. This hat goes right back in the box and in the top of his closet.
We also he buys them a burger place, and at first I thought it was for like money laundering purposes.
Yeah.
But it just seems like he bought them a burger place. They own a franchise, I guess.
Yes.
And then they never talk about it again. And I was like, is it just for passive income?
Yeah, basically.
He bought it with their money. Like
Yes. Yeah. There's so many times in this movie where I feel like hijinks are going to ensue and then they don't. And I meant to bring this up earlier, but it's fine. This is
sexy burger. It could be a sexy burger.
Yeah. I mean, that's an option, but also it could just be like some of the women are not liking the investment, or they're like, well, who told you what you could do with our money? And like, why, what, like whatever, like all of those things could be part of it. But also like, I genuinely almost forgot about Richard. Like at the point at which Richard Belzer's character comes back, which is not too long from now, I kind of forgot about him. And I was like, oh, right. Like that was supposed to be the looming threat. Because there eventually is a conversation. I don't know if it's already happened or not, but like Keaton and Winkler are talking, and he's like, oh, I feel like we're this close to getting caught. And it's like, have Richard Belzer like lurking around and like in watching Winkler go home, right? Just have like, no interaction.
There should have been a few more, because we see one scene of Belzer and his accomplice like kicking the shit out of someone, being like, someone took over the beat and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
We needed a few more of those, of them trying to figure out who it was and getting a hint each time.
Ultimately leading to like they're just standing inside Winkler's building as he comes in and watch him get on the elevator, and he's like, why is that guy staring at me? Like give me some of this stuff. But instead, so it's Christmas party, we're like drunk, staying up all night. Everybody else is spending a lot of money. Winkler doesn't seem to be, and
Keaton
he's like,
gives
no,
his sad backstory, his sad sober backstory, or not sober, sad drunk.
He's very drunk, And so, like, what did you buy? And Henry Winkler's like, I'll show you. And he takes him to a cemetery. And Keaton's like, oh, this is a great investment idea, which it kind of probably is.
I never thought about that. So does someone own a cemetery? I always assumed that they were like, it was just like a government-y thing.
No, people own cemeteries.
Huh.
Costs a lot of money to die. like a lot of money.
I know
To
that,
bury-
but
Yeah, like to be like the funeral and the burial, it all is very expensive. That's why I just want to be cremated. You can put me in a coffee can, don't get a nice urn, just go scatter them somewhere.
but where? You have to tell
Somewhere
me where.
nice. Yeah, I've got ideas. A national park, maybe a beach somewhere. Just somewhere nice. Anyway, he bought a headstone for his dad, which is very sweet. Kind of like weird in the movie, like
Because,
in terms
like,
of tone.
He's never really talked with a lot of reverence for his father. He's mentioned him once, and
Yep,
just only to say that he
the
died.
mom ghost thing. Well, that the mom yells at him in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's never been a conversation about like, my dad, I became a coroner because my dad worked like blah, blah, or like whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be that, but just like the dad is never mentioned.
And then
It just feels.
I genuinely thought he bought himself a funeral plot.
I did too. I was like, oh, it's going to be a headstone for him and the fiance, and the fiance is going to think this is weird and leave him.
Oh, I didn't think it was going to be a headstone. I thought it was going to be plot, because you can buy your plot, because that was a that was a plot in the nanny. You can just buy your plot now.
You can buy your headstone now too.
Don't buy your headstone. That feels a little toy. But like, you can buy a plot and be ready.
Yeah, I've heard and seen like where it's like people buy their headstone and they just don't engrave the death date, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Just do the plot.
Yeah,
Figure out where it's gonna be.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that makes so much sense for his character. That he'd be like, this is where I bought my funeral plot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead it was like, I bought it for my dad. He's got the biggest headstone in the place now. And I was like, okay. And so
he's like, he had the smallest one and now it's the biggest.
And then he and Shelley Long go back to her place where it's always cold. And I was like, I don't know if this is supposed to like imply that she's too poor to pay for her heat.
Right.
Or she's just got a shitty apartment.
If it was the beginning, you'd think it would be that, but then he's like, oh yeah, the heat doesn't come up to the 4th floor until about April or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, you're both rich now. Like Michael Keaton has a brand new car with all the bells and whistles. All the women have fancy clothes. Like, why are you, like, now you should move.
Yeah. You should still be living in squalor. And so she's like, she says, you're a good guy. You're decent. And he loses his goddamn mind that she called him decent. And I was like, that's the best compliment you've ever received?
Yeah, it's a huge bummer.
You're decent?
It's a huge bummer. Yeah, really huge
By
bummer.
definition, that's not the highest compliment you can receive.
Right. If that's the best that you get from your fiance, you should leave her.
And so finally they like kiss in the longest, weirdest, unbroken kissing shot I've ever seen.
I thought it was especially weird how Henry Winkler got out a stepladder to do it.
Yeah.
Because Shelley Long is 3 feet taller than him.
Well, apparently that was one of the things that was annoying. She would always ruin the framing so that he looked short.
Well, so like they wanted him, like she would screw up his apple box or whatever.
I guess, but I'm like, I mean, if that's why you're mad at Shelley Long, because you look short compared to her, then
You're like, you're short, Henry Winkler. What do you want?
go back to your race car bed.
So they kiss. Then they're post-coital in the bathtub, which is very
Why
confusing.
were they in the bathtub?
No water in it. And it was like, I was like, is it because it's warm? Because I was like, oh, maybe they're in the bath. It's like it's warm, but they're not in the water. They're just like in the tub under coats. It makes absolutely no sense. It's a weird choice.
I didn't get it.
My only thought was like, is it somehow a height thing? Like it makes Henry Winkler look less short? But I was like, no, if they're laying down on a bed, it wouldn't matter. You could frame it up, like chest up. You wouldn't notice.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Especially because in a lot of like sex worker, media, it's like they don't have sex in their own bed.
Right.
So I was like, is that what this is trying? I was like, no, because this is the whole point would be that she's falling in love with him, so she would let him in her bed.
Right. And then later he says the whole thing about, is it Clute?
Yes.
He's referencing another movie I believe is called Clute that's also about a sex worker, and he's like talking about this
Jane
scene
Fonda
from that
is a
and
sex
how
worker.
it's right. And he's saying how it's fake, and Shelley Long is pointedly like, well, I don't wear a watch, indicating like this isn't fake. I care for you. And then we get the most predictable thing, and I was like, well, I wonder how long it's going to be before like Henry Winkler's mad that she's still doing her job. And it's literally the subsequent scene. It's like
he
45
into the
seconds.
room like a little schoolgirl, and he's like, I wouldn't count on Shelley Long coming back to work. And I was like, did I miss that line of dialogue?
Right.
And then she
right.
comes in, she's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late. Who do I have tonight?" And he's like, "Well, I don't understand." And it's like, Broseph, she's like, you're engaged to someone else.
Yes, and this is my job. I have to do it to put food in my mouth.
Like, it'd be one thing if he was like single and he was like, "We're gonna be together. I can take care of you." Moment. But
Right. But even that also is like, that's like what happens in Pretty Woman. And it's like, nah, I have a job. I'm good at it.
Is that what happens in Pretty Woman? It's been.
You've never seen it?
I don't think I have.
Shocking to me. Okay.
I've seen all the hits, but
yeah.
I was like, I must have missed a scene, and I was like, no, I didn't. They just never talked about it because he's just assumed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't understand why you're not quitting. And she's like, you didn't quit. And he's like, I'm not a whore. And I was like, but you are engaged. That's what you didn't quit, buddy.
Right. Right. Yeah. Precisely. 100%. That should have been her line. She should say, and did you leave your fiance?
Mm-hmm. Did you quit your wife or whatever?
Yeah. So they leave. Keaton's going to take her to a job, and Richard Belzer and his friend arrive to kick Winkler's ass, which obviously would not be very difficult because he's a tiny man.
Probably not. Shelley Long he takes her to the hotel, and he's like, "You don't want to go up there," and she's like, "No," and he's like, "I'll take you home." And she's like, "Not used to this treatment before," and she's like,
Right.
"What about him?" And he's like, "I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm gonna take him home.
I'll get him drunk and then tell him you were there.
I'll get him drunk and take his clothes off, and he'll think you were there."
Yeah.
And then we cut to this. It's definitely a gay bar that they're pretending is a straight bar.
Yeah. I was like, my note is, why are there so many straight people at this gay club? Because it's not just like the bachelorette party invading the gay club space. It's like a bunch of heterosexual couples dancing.
At this club that is definitely a gay club.
100%. I mean, most of the people in it are very clearly gay men.
Yes.
Like, very clearly.
And so Keaton's there, and there's two cops that are talking about like, oh, we're on the narcotics. It's very much like, well, isn't it great that we are cops who look for drugs and we are cops?
Well, no, they said, I wish we were back on Vice, which is sex crimes.
Oh, is that? I didn't know Vice was sex crimes.
Yeah. Also, one of these two cops is the absolute spitting image of Rob Hubel, the comedian. I'm sure you've seen him and stuff. He plays like douchey brothers is sort of his steez.
Is he the one from The Office and Krampus?
No, that's Dave Koechner.
Okay. I mean, that's who you described that energy.
No. I don't think it's bad. I just Hubel is less mean looking than Dave Koechner does. But I was like, wait, is that him? No, that can't be right. This is like 30 years before his career started. But I was doing a triple take.
So he pitches to the cops about his sex worker business.
Right.
Which is kismet because they're gonna kill Henry Winkler.
Yes. Yeah. It's very funny. It's like the opposite. It's tension in the opposite way where it's like, oh, are they going to open the door? Like, is the bad guy, it's like, are they hiding from the bad guy? And is the bad guy opening the door? And this is a flip of that where it's like, is the good guy going to get there in time? Because Henry Winkler's been tied to the morgue thing and they put a fire hose in his mouth.
They also turn it on, which you're dead.
It should
if not dead, you're in a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's stupid that they turn it on. It would blow his head off. Like it would just turn him into pudding. It's got an unbelievable amount of pressure coming out of it. Instead, it's like played silly, like it's pinwheeling out of his mouth, which I understand. But...
Yeah, but come on. And then the police show up, and there's a shootout, and Henry Winkler is just slowly spinning around in the middle of the room, taped to the gurney thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's like I said to you before, it's like, where's this Ron Howard? This is like a kinetically fun action sequence. This is great. It looks great.
Where did this go?
Camera moves. Yeah. So Richard Belzer shoots himself, which I really like.
No, he gets shot reaching for his gun.
No, he shoots. He goes to switch guns and he shoots himself in the foot.
Oh, I thought he was reaching for the gun that fell and got shot.
No, he like runs out of bullets in his shotgun and he throws it down and he's going to pull a pistol out of his ankle holster and in doing so shoots himself in the foot and then starts going like, ow, ow, ow. So they go to prison.
I love Keaton's energy for getting his mugshot.
Yes.
He's like, does anyone have it's Beetlejuice. He's like, they don't have a comb.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. Can you take it again? I wasn't looking.
Yeah. So they're in prison, and there's like a funny bit with some one or two line actor who's like, Winkler's like, I wish I was dead, and the guy's like, you want to be dead?
I love this. It made me laugh so much.
Yeah, it felt like a Bob's Burgers joke, honestly. Like it's a little too dark, but it's the right energy.
Yeah, he would be saying it to Bob in like the grocery store or something. He'd be like, please go away.
Yeah.
No, thank you, sir.
Or Bob gets arrested for some like misunderstanding, and he's like, I can do that for you. And he's like, no, please no.
Please go away.
So the fiance shows up. Teddy, please, Teddy.
You want to file, Bob?
No, I just want you to pay the bail, Teddy. Thank you. So the fiance shows up, who, by the way, I have this written down here and forgot, but she played the therapist on 3 episodes of Seinfeld. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
Like, I think Elaine went to see her, and then George does. She spits on Henry Winkler.
She flew in from Indiana.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is crazy. And she flew in from Indiana to spit on him and say goodbye. And I was like, that's an expensive fuck off.
Yes. You could have just let him rot. It would have been easier.
Write a letter. We're through. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. Nothing else. So they go to meet with a lawyer.
No, we get a shitty gay joke. Don't gloss over the shitty gay joke.
I genuinely missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Henry Winkler's like, she spit on me. I deserve to be spit on. I'm at my lowest, and he sits on the floor, and then he looks over, and there's an effeminate man who's cut out hearts from his newspaper and holds it up to his chest and wiggles, and he goes, never mind, it could go lower. And I was like, why? Come on.
I totally missed that. Well, they go to meet with a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, in the interest of getting reelected, everyone wants this to go away. So they're just going to give you your jobs back.
Mention, the subtext is, this happened on government property.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they need a little more explicit of like, because you were doing this out of a government facility in a government-owned building.
Taxpayers paid for this. So they're like, oh, we'll get your jobs back. And so Winkler's like, oh, thank God, I can just go back to my regular life, which is what he wants. And Keaton's like, no, we've got them over a barrel. Like, if their starting position is this, we can get more out of them. And he's right. He's absolutely right.
I mean, he's going a little far with saying let's go to the mayor's office, but like, you can squeeze a few drops out of this.
I mean, you could 100% get put back on the day shift.
Yeah, that's what I said. At the very least, get the day shift back.
Right.
But then he wouldn't get to be with Shelley Long. And we all know he's going to end up with Shelley Long.
Right. So they're like, can we speak alone? And they have a great physical fight between the two of them, which is funny because like neither of these guys is the fighting type, but just delightful watching them destroy this office. Like the tennis swings, like Winkler tries to hit him with a racket and Keaton is giving him tips on swinging his racket better.
Stiffen your elbow, buddy.
Good stuff.
Keep the elbow up. And then I was like bummed. I was like, oh, they just ruined this office, and now they lost all their power and leverage.
Right. So they like, separate and go their separate ways, and we see Winkler.
He also at the end he's like, everything you ruined my life, Michael Keaton. Yes. And I was like, you're an autonomous human man.
Right.
Like
I hate
you
this
made choices.
Like, you did this. Yeah.
It was his idea, but you said sure.
Yeah. So we get Winkler outside his apartment, and I see this guy come off the elevator. I'm like, oh, that's Vincent Schiavelli. And then he disappears. And I'm like,
the subway ghost or the organ grinder clown.
Yes. And I was like, did Vincent Schiavelli really just have... Because, like, he is a distinctive guy. When you see him down a hallway, you're like, oh, that's Vincent Schiavelli. And I was like, wow, he was really in this just as, like, an extra, I guess. And then he comes back around the corner and is like, hey, are you 4K? And I'm like,
first,
right. Okay,
Shelley Long
he
has a conversation with Shelley Long.
Oh, right.
She's like, sorry. I'm moving out. I'm going condo. And I was like, just talk to each other. Like, you both want to apologize.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, it's classic rom-com stuff.
I know, but I was like, there's 10 minutes left.
Yeah, we got to get out of here. I'm tapping my wrist here. Like, let's go, baby.
We got to wrap this up. ABC is pulling the plug because hockey's on in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. The commercials need to run in a 30-second squirm, so hurry up. So she's like, I probably won't see you again, and she leaves, and she tells him where she's working now, or where she's going to be working. And I really like that, like, we see Henry Winkler finally like become assertive, and he's like yelling at Vincent Schiavelli, like, this has mustard. I asked for no mustard.
He goes, this sandwich has mustard on it, and the guy goes, so, and he goes, it's egg salad, and I was like, okay, that's not that weird.
Not weird. Yeah, I
agree.
Like,
it's a peanut butter sandwich. That's weird.
Yes.
But like
Right.
mustard on your egg salad sandwich.
Like, I feel like I would do that. I
I've
don't
done
eat a lot
that.
of egg salad of it. Yeah. I mean, so I love him. Vincent Chiavelli takes the sandwich and wipes the mustard on his door frame and puts it back, and then is like, "Bye, I solved your problem."
I was like, Vincent Chiavelli is in Michael Keaton's movie. They're both in this crazy, like, everyone's in 11 universe.
Yes. So he finally stands up for himself. He yells at him about the mustard. Then he yells at the dogs that have harassed him the whole movie that I don't think we talked about previously.
No, we didn't mention them.
He's like, stop, go back home. And the dogs do it. And then he storms into this sex club where not only is Shelley Long working, but also Michael Keaton. And also it's like, instead of what I imagined.
Cool looking.
Yeah, it's like
pretty cool.
It's like a children's playground.
I was gonna say it's like Disney themed. It's like a volcano water slide into a pool.
Yes,
but everyone's naked.
It looks like the cheap knockoff, like roadside tourist trap version of a Disney water park.
Yes, very much.
Like the volcano is made of crepe paper, creepy paper, and like tinsel. But Keaton is also there as a Tarzan dressed towel boy.
Yeah, and I was like, I feel like that could have been a skimpier outfit because there's come on, there's no way there's not some people who are like, I want to look at it. I won't touch it. I just want to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, even though there's a couple of topless women, but mostly people are like pretty clothed, which shocked me. For this movie.
Winkler runs in and he's being like, "Where's Belinda? I need to speak with Belinda." And I was like, "Hey, buddy, sex worker 101. She's not using her real name."
Yeah.
I hate to be the one to tell you that, dude, but
also not for nothing, but like Belinda isn't a sex worker name.
No, that's not.
She's got a
very,
different
like, sexy
name. Yeah, it's Cherry or something. Like it's not Belinda.
Champagne.
Yeah. So there's a good bit of business with Keaton is like trying to prevent him from looking for her, and he keeps like fainting and ripping open these doors. And at one point we hear like a goat sound, which is kind of good.
Yeah, he keeps opening door. I'm like, these are all sex doors, but like,
yeah,
even if you find her behind one of these doors, she's a little busy.
Yeah, absolutely. So finally we see her, and she's not actively working at the moment. And so Winkler's like rushing off to talk to her. In the meantime, some guy sidles up to her and starts, spitting game. And Winkler's like, no, I got business to attend to here. And the guy's like, hey, I saw her first. Go away. So they have.
And Henry Winkler's like, actually, I saw her first.
So they have a little back and forth, and then the dude punches Henry Winkler, at which point Keaton does a full-on 90s ECW balcony dive, and no water in the pool.
Well, see, to me, it's what I call the Disney Channel dummy flop that they did on every show. That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. They got one dummy, they put it in some clothes that the main character wears, and just drop it flat.
Yeah. So he gets just completely splats. Winkler finally says, I love you, after like a little bit of consternation here. And then Winkler grabs the owner he's on a high from this, and he grabs the owner of the place, and he's like giving him the business.
Because the owner was being mean to Keaton. And he was
and
like,
Shelley too.
Was it being? I didn't even think he was being mean to Shelley.
Oh, I guess not.
He said, Henry, right. He said, Michael Keaton, you're fired. Get the fuck out of here, you schmuck.
So he's like grabbing this guy's lapels and yelling at him. He's like, is that a gun in your pocket? And the guy's like, it is. And then Winkler pushes him in the pool, and they all run away.
I did love it's the perfect punchline, because he's like building up. He's like, I have one question for you, punk. Is that a gun in your pocket? And he's like, fine.
Yeah. So they run off into traffic. Keaton is cold, so Winkler gives him his jacket, and then they like walk down the street, and the credits start rolling.
They're going to go to a diner.
Yeah. I feel like so many movies ended so abruptly back in the day, and it's just like kind of pleasantly different than like having a real formal like final end to the movie. It's just like, no, that's it. Goodbye. And they just walk away. It's very delightful.
And all of the music was by Burt Bacharach.
Yes. Yeah. And the main title song as well, which always makes me think of Austin Powers.
Yeah, me too. I can't not hear his name, and it's Burt Bacharach.
Yeah. Although I'm pretty sure he also was involved with Butch Cassidy, which is one of my all-time faves. But anyway, what are your final thoughts?
It's fun.
Do you recommend this?
I mean, did we say that Mom wanted us to do this one for a while?
Yeah, this is a long time gestating mom was like, you should do this.
It's fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would like this more if it was a little different, but it's pretty solid as it is. Henry Winkler's very good. Shelley Long is very good, who's not normally somebody I really have any opinion on. I think she's pretty solid here.
I mean, I think her best work is the Brady Bunch movies.
Oh, that's right. She is in those,
She's
isn't
Mrs.
she?
Brady.
That's right. Yeah, I totally spaced on that, but you're right. Yeah, she's very funny. She's a very talented actress. Obviously, people don't like to work with her, but that doesn't affect me in any way, so I don't care. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid movie. If you've not seen it before, you got to rent it right now anyway. I got mine through the local library. But yeah, you'll have to go track it down. But it's worth your time. It's a solidly funny movie, and it's got some great Keaton business. So
a really great Keaton performance.
Yeah, if you can get over the Bill Murray thing, like I didn't, but yes, I agree.
Oh, apparently, real quick, Kurt Russell read for the Keaton role, and I can see it.
Interesting. Yeah, me too.
I think a mid-late 80s Russell would have been a better fit, but
the problem is that all the women would just want to have sex with Kurt Russell instead of doing the sex work.
Yeah.
It would have just
then
been
they'd all
Kurt
be out of a
Russell.
job.
Yeah, Kurt Russell and 9 women. It's not really as entertaining a movie. Anyway, if you like the show, please go review it wherever you get it. We read those on the air. And if you do like it, another thing you can do to help us out is to tell 2 friends about it. It's always good to spread the word about things you like. So do that if you have not done that. Check us out at Dissect the 80s on Twitter, and on Facebook, it's Dissecting the 80s. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Can't believe it's 9 years on and we're still plugging along here. Would not be here if not for the fine support of the people on Patreon. So thank you again, especially to those folks who support us there. And if you would like to get more of this show, head on over to patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and get all the bonus content. I think it's like 25, almost 30 hours of bonus content you get instantly, and you get an RSS feed so you can listen to it all in your favorite podcast player. So patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We will be back in 2 weeks with an episode on, it's almost spooktacular time.
It is. Oh, actually, let me look up John Hughes movies and see which one, so I can remember which one's my favorite.
We haven't 100% decided what our next movie is. I think we're doing Spaceballs is my hunch. We're finally getting into Mel Brooks territory here.
I'd be down for that.
So I think we'll be back in 2 weeks with Spaceballs. If it's not Spaceballs, I will post a tweet. Thank you so much for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
And his favorite John Hughes movie is...
So I think it's a tie between Uncle Buck and Weird Science.
I thought you didn't like Weird Science.
No, I like Weird Science.
I'd rank Uncle Buck very highly as well. I was just... we should do that. We'll do that for one of the John Candies for sure.
Yeah. For candied yams.
Yeah, exactly. We will see you in 2 weeks, folks. Bye-bye.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.